Just wanted to make a quick video on the new default styles area that I have added to my lightweight custom theme. It's just basically a where we set up the initial styles for the basic elements, and the reason it's good is because everyone has access to it. Like, for instance, if you like setting, the font size, you playing around font sizes across the site and checking, colors and checking, what I mean, what something's set to. It just adds the style elements and gives everyone sort of access to them, and it sets them up in the beginning of a project, and that way, like, like in theory, it should be uniform throughout the whole site. So, okay, I just set up this new site, and I have like a design here, and the first thing I like to find out is like the page width, the inner page width. Now, what do I mean by inner page? Normally there's a point on every website where even if you pull the browser wider, this particular inner page stays put, and it's normally like 1200 to 1400. In this particular case, it is showing at around 1400. So we go to the styles and we set the the default page width to 1400. Okay, so we got that all set, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding colors. And the reason why, again, this is pretty cool is because we can add, every site has a basic palette. And second here. Every site has a basic palette, and if we define them, the palette in the beginning, then we can just, use those. Instead of having to remember the hex decimal for everything, we can we're basically defining the colors. Like, okay, let me I'll illustrate. Okay, this is an orange color, but it's a very specific orange color. So it's got this hex number, right? So on our style sheet right here, we're going to add a row, and we're going to call this orange. So I'm going to go down to orange, and then I'm going to select a color and then put this color in. Now, this color now is the orange color. So, like, let's say I'm setting the border for, for some other part down here, and I can just select orange, and it'll be the orange that we're using in our what do you call it, default. What do you call it? So you don't have to remember that. It's basically just so you don't have to remember that hexadecimal number every time you want to, change to or add a color. Okay, so we got that in. I'm going to use this as the blue, just a regular blue, I think. That sounds, it looks deep, it makes sense. So I'm going to select blue, put in our hexadecimal. Now we got that. What else we got here? We got dark blue. So I'm going to add another row, and we got dark blue. There's our dark blue color. There we go. And this is like a green, right? It's like a green. That's how I'm going to remember it. So in our style sheet here, I'm going to put green. Yes. There we go. Okay, let's see if there's any other colors that jump out at me. We can always add them later. Oh, here's one thing that I like to get out of the way. There's normally a a darker color close to black that we use for font. I'm just going to make sure that this is the one that we're most likely going to use. I think it is, but I'm going to make sure. Actually, it might not be. That looks pretty. Well, let's see. Okay. This color right here is 5A, 5A, 5A. And what are you? You the same thing? Yep. Okay. And so what I like to use in this particular case is I like to use font black. What do you call it? Because it's always used for font and it's always close to black, but it's not exactly black. So I just set that as my font black. And that's going to be basically, I'm going to set that as the font for the site, basically, the whole site. Because that looks like that's what's going on. Okay, good. Now we can go down. Since we got our color palette here, now let's take a look at link, like or you know, the general font sizes of the site itself. So this font size is 18, and I take a couple samples just because it, you know, it can vary depending on what template you're at, but generally speaking, every website has your general font size. You know what I mean? Like your default font size. And this looks to be 18 regular, Roboto. Okay, so good. So this is going to be 18. Font size. See, for the P tag, that's the paragraph, and that's basically the whole site. You know what I mean? We're going to have font size 18 pix. Here, I'm going to put pix right here. Okay. And for the mobile font size, if when it breaks to mobile, you want to set it at a different size, you can certainly set it there. And, you know, this is going to be regular, so we're going to go 400. Font black. Okay, good. Let's take a look at this. This looked like a good template for our basic, you know, our basic paragraphs. So our basic paragraphs are going to have a margin, generally speaking. It's a big margin, 50 pix. It's a 50 pixel margin. It's a big margin. Okay. And these, like, this doesn't have to be absolute, but I'm going to check a couple spots on the website and see if this is basically the normal, should be the default for the for paragraph spacing. Let's see if we can find other paragraphs in here. See, like the front page always has, you know, elements that are not like default elements. The front page is, a lot of times it's a bunch of modules that are not used in other parts of the website. That's just normal. That's 100 pixels, so we're good there. So it's what do you call it? It's difficult to use the front page as your default styling, because the front page is really not default styling. It's normally it's very specialized modules for, you know. Let's take a look at this. Let's see what we got here. Yep, that's another 50 pixels high. So it's looking to me, and this is what? This is 20 pixels. Okay. It looked smaller, didn't it? It looks smaller than our other text, and it says 20 pixels. All right. Here's one more that we can go check. There we are. it looks like it's going to be 50 pixels as well. So, yep. So that really is the margin looks to be, the margin for each paragraph is 50 pixels. So in our styles, we got the margin bottom 50 pixels. Now again, on the mobile style, when it responds to phone, it could drop down. You could drop it down to 25 pixels. You know what I mean? If that made sense. So good. We got that going. I'm gonna hit update. One last thing I like to, before I start checking stuff out, I guess, and sometimes it's just not in the, there's a decent amount of time the links are just not displayed in the mock-ups, like they're not necessarily like always thought about when you're making a mock-up. Oh, here's a read more. It's a link. It looks like it's a that's got a little bit of a text style into it, like a italic, and we could do that. So what I'm going to do here is look at these. I think this, yeah. So looks to me like they're bold. Let me just make sure that that's the truth. 18 pixel. This is 16 pixels, but like it is bold. Good. It's going to be bold. That's 16 pixels, but I bet you're 8 and you're 24. Okay. But generally speaking, what looks to me like is for our links, the styling is of course blue and it's bold. So for our A-tag link style, see this is the link style, we're going to make the font color, font weight is going to be bold, which is normally 7 or 800, you know what I mean? And it's going to be our blue color. So when we hover over it, that's another thing that's not always defined. But here's a hover, sort of like and it sort of gives us a clue. So maybe we'll use this green as a hover. And if someone wants it differently later, then it's fine. We can just reset this style. That's what's so good about this area right here is if we want it to be a different color, we just set it as a different color. I'm going to choose italic as the font style. We can also add bold, like a an underline to the links if we wanted to right here. And that's what these settings do. And so let's go ahead and hit update, and I'm gonna show you how this is gonna work. Now this little link right here will check our default styles. This way we can take a look and see if thus far we sort of like what we're looking at. And this has examples of links. So as you can see, they're italic. They are some this is all capital and this is lowercase and capital, so it gives you an idea of what each one of them would look like. If you check in the styles over here, you can see that this is font size 18 with a margin of 50 pixels, in below each paragraph. So let's take a look at that. That looks like our height is a little big. So, and this is something that's going to happen sometimes, where you have to start, you have to sort of like play around, because the line height will affect how things look. So let's take a look at that really fast. I'm looking at, like, okay, here's our line height settings, right? Let's take a look at a mock-up and see what our line heights look like. Do they look like? Look half? Oh, see, that's like 1.5 at least. So let's set our line heights to 1.5 EM for our P tags. And also, I don't really have a setting for this yet because I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do that yet. But like, we are going to use Roboto. So let me go ahead and I'm going to pause this for a second because I'm going to put that in the sheet. There's no back-end setting for this yet. There's possibly going to be in the future, but I haven't set it yet. So let me pause this for a second. Just wanted to stick Roboto in. It looks like our entire site is using Roboto. So what I do is I just stick that in the header right here. The entire site's using Roboto. I set that as like in the default, body tag. And so what we got here is we go to our default styles to show our default styles. And as you can see, we got Roboto. We got this type of text here. In our mock-up here, it looks like, let's go all the way out and see if we can get that default page. Here we are. Here's that default page right here. Come on. Alrighty. And our Roboto looks like it has a regular weight. And regular weight, I'm supposing that is going to be font weight 400. And looks, let's check and make sure that our header has a 400. Yep, has a 400. So we're going to use 400 as the regular weight. And so that's what we have here. This is our Roboto style here. What do you think? And that line height looks high, don't it? 32 pixel line height. I think that's what that is. For 1.7. Yeah, it looks closer. Okay. I'm going to check this really fast and make sure. Looks like we have a total height of 70, which is way too high. So we're going to have to drop the margin down on our default styles here. Drop the margin bottom by 20, so we got a 30. Hit refresh, there we go. That looks better. Don't look so crazy. Yep, height about 50 pixels. So that's looking good, okay? So that's what our default paragraph text is going to look like. This is how our links are going to behave. We got the blue, you know what I mean? When you hover over it, you get the color change. Now we're going to start, what do you call it? Styling headers. Okay. So what that will do is I will go over here and we're going to start finding some headers. First one, obviously, is this giant one right here. That's 87 bold. So our first header is going to be 87 bold with a line height that looks about 1.5 EM. So go down here to title 1. What did I say? I already forgot it. 87. 87 pixels with a line height of 1 point. We'll just go 1.2 right now. Just see what that looks like with a font weight of bold. I'm not going to mess with font color right now because this is a white. Let's update this. This is how big this header is. Ooh, it's a big old header. 87 pixels, bold. Okay, and if you want to know what it's going to look like for instance, if you want to know what it's going to look like in a different color, we got this little spot right here where you can select a background. And let's say we select blue. That way we can select white as the font color for it, so we can see like what exactly this is going to look like. So this is what it's going to look like on white. As you can see, we got like it seriously, you know what I mean, like we kind of have to change the color of the paragraph text to make this look like okay, but this gives you an idea of what it will look like white. And the font weight was bold. So in our styles, go down here and font weight. I don't even have bold yet. This is bold. This thing is huge. Does that look right? It looks a lot bigger than it does on this page. And that's one of the things that you sort of like, you know what I mean? That's one of the things you're sort of dealing with, and the reason we're putting this together is because sometimes it looks good in the mock, you know what I mean, in a mock-up, and then you get it on a page, like actually on an internet page, and it, you know what I mean, sometimes it looks different. So that's sort of one of the reasons why we're doing this. Anyway, so this is title 1. So we styled title 1. Now we're going to go find a second title. And it looks like our second title is going to be this one. So let's grab you. Second title, that's 32, bold again. So title 2 will be 32 pixels. Right. Bold. We're going to have dark blue as a setting for this one. I think I'm going to tweak this thing a little bit to where when we set a setting, it, what do you call it, just affects the header and not also the, you know, the paragraphs underneath it, because now we have two headers that look they look weird. Anyway, you get the point with the this default setting. See how on the, what do you call it, the default styles shows you what active colors we have. It'll show you what our headers are going to look like, and it's even going to show you the buttons. Let me go over the buttons real quick, and then I'll be done with this sort of, you know, introduction tutorial. Okay, so a general button. These are our general buttons. Looks to me like you got, this one's obviously a clear background button, and this one's got a blue, you know what I mean? It's more blue. And it looks right now like the blues are winning, don't it? just more blue buttons than clear buttons. Certainly looks like that way to me. So I'm gonna use these buttons as the you know, the basic button. So let's go down here and take a look at this guy. Button. He's gonna have blue background, green border, 19 bold is the font. So I'm gonna go to our buttons. Go scroll down here to button style 1. 19 pix is the font size. Font color is going to be white. I haven't changed these to the selections yet, so we are going to have to, you know, find the hex for these. Bold, I believe, right? Let's go back and look. What are you? Yeah, 19 bold. Okay. So we set bold. Text align is going to be center for you guys. The hover. Okay, the background color is going to be that blue. So we stroll up to here and see this blue. I'm gonna grab you. Stroll down here again, and background color is going to be blue. Yay. And the border color is going to be this green. So select our border color. Now we got that as a green. The hover border color, I'm going to just keep it as green, but the hover background color I'm going to make white, and I'm going to make the hover font color this blue. So it just sort of inverts the button. So it has no border radius because these look like very square buttons. The padding is going to be, what does that look like? What does that look like to you? Padding looks like it's 15 pixels. Maybe 20. Oh, you know, I can measure it, I suppose. Measure it. What do we got here? Yeah, 25. We could do 25. See what it looks like. 25 seems like a lot, but maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy. Okay, and the way this works is the first number is going to be the top. The second number is the right. The third number is the bottom, and the fourth number is the left side. And so I set these up like here to sort of explain that, just in case you're gonna forget that. And so every one of these is going to have 4 numbers: top, space, right, space, bottom, space, left. That way, like, let's say if you needed 100 pixels on the bottom, you would use this number because it goes top, right, bottom, left. So you would use the third number if you wanted to add more space to the bottom. You know what I mean? And that's basically how this works. So we will update. And again, even on the buttons, you have a spot down here for mobile. You know, so you got your mobile padding, just in case you want to drop the padding down when mobile hits. So let's go back up and let's check out our styles here. Okay, this is what our buttons are going to look like. Of course, that doesn't look like, it looks almost like it's transparent, but it's not. This is what the button general looks like. See how fat that is? I knew it was going to be it was going to look a little bit, I mean, just fat, man. I'm going to take 10 of them off. I'm going to take 10 off. I'm going to make I'm going to put 15 all around. And maybe the line height is what's, you know, giving it that extra space. So, okay, that looks a little bit better, don't it? Yeah, so now when you hover over it, the background turns white and, you know, the text turns blue. And, you know, so that's how that works. So you can, as you can see, you have complete control over your general default button here. The hover color, the border radius, the padding, everything. So this is generally, like, just generally speaking, we just showed a basic setup of the default styles. Again, I can keep going, and I added header 3, header 4, header 5. But what's great about this is, like, you can get a general idea of what the default for all these basic elements is, and you have access to it right here. So if you ever wanted to mess with the defaults of a site, like the, you know, the paragraph default or whatever, this is where you would go. And it, you know, what's good about this is it keeps it very uniform. It gives us a spot to refer back to and to test in the initial state, so that we know, you know, we're on the right track. If we, you know, if we come across something that looks a little too big, we can tweak it here in the very beginning, instead of having to try to tweak stuff later on in the project. So just want to give a quick overview of the new spot on the, you know, the lightweight theme. It's going to be styles default. And if you have any questions, just give me a call. Thanks.